What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jobbers and Goons, and today we have a video that honestly, it's just another video where perhaps I had too much time on my hands, perhaps I thought about it too much, but regardless, I'm bringing this theory to you guys today. If you're a fan of Marvel's Sentry, smash the like button. Let's try to get this to 200 likes. That would be amazing, as I'm going to be reviewing a wild ass theory I have on the Sentry, and just perhaps what him and the Void actually mean in the long-term picture for Marvel. If you guys are a fan of theories, reviews of comics, power scalings, everything like that, smash the like buttons. I drop content like this all the time, as well as make sure, if you're watching this video today, make sure to tune in later, because I'm probably going to drop another video, which will likely be my Fixing Fiction Naruto Part 1. As well as I'll likely stream. So stay tuned for content. I drop daily. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe if you haven't already. And join my Discord. I'll have all the scans to my theory on Sentry and my Discord. But without further ado, let's kind of get into my crazy theory on the Sentry. You see, Sentry, even early on in his run, and we're kind of going to be jumping through several parts of his existence throughout his run. Sentry, off rip, when he was debuted, his existence was almost implied and narratively regarded as, in a similar way that we saw Toba and Immortal Hulk. That is, a lot of biblical references as well as Shakespearean, in which we see the quote, "Hell is empty, all the devils are here," directly referring to Sentry. You see, I've always been fascinated by Sentry ever since I did a somewhat deep dive on him. After I kind of realized his writers, they had a lot of implications for him, and I'm referring to his OG ones, and they never got a chance to actualize or realize these implications. So there's a lot of ways this can go. By the way, if you work for Marvel, please watch this whole video and suggest it to writers and editors. Please, for the culture. But anyways, getting into the kind of next point of that, Sentry, like I said, since his early runs, has always had a weird state of being. After he supposedly took this super soldier serum, instead of making him a fucking souped up Captain America, it turned him into a god, right? Shit went crazy. And it's essentially described as Sentry has mastered the ability to be real and not real. He exists in a constant flux. He is almost like Schrodinger's cat, right? Like he's both real, not real. He is, but isn't. He's dead, but not dead. He's alive, but not alive. You know, all these things. That's kind of how Sentry exists. And it kind of leads you to wonder, you know, how does he exist? You know, is he real? Is this just how he perceives himself? Is this how he tries to portray himself to reality? We're doing a deeper dive on Sentry today, guys. Fucking W in the chat. I'm going to probably premiere this just for the culture, because I really enjoyed making this. But also comment down below as you watch this what you think of my theory. And again, hit up my Discord to talk about the theory. But Sentry himself has these kind of hard-hitting questions even for who he is. And now, for those that wonder, why does he have so many fucking internal questions for himself? Dude's been through some shit. First of all, he's done every drug under the sun. He did all the white people drug, heroin, meth, all that. Like, he's done crazy drugs. He's also been hit with literal retcon level memory wipes, and we'll explain that further later. Sentry's been through a whole lot of shit. There's a whole lot of shit, quite frankly, he doesn't know about himself. And he was talking to Strange and said, look, I don't even know if I'm real. I don't know if the Sentry or the Void or whatever the fuck I am, I don't know if that's what really is. This could all be a fabrication. Just something portrayed to hide the real truth. And I just, quite frankly, don't know if I actually exist. And that's when Doctor Strange told him, like, you know, let's find out. Let's take a look. Let's see if you have a darker existence. Now, if you haven't really picked up on what we're kind of alluding to at this point, there's a lot of potential there for Sentry to be something more than what he's portrayed, right? Like, he might have a little more sauce than he told the chefs. That's what I'm saying. It might be a little sinister than even what we think, and we're going to continue to dive into this. Now, Sentry's always kind of had a standoffish approach with gods, if not oftentimes downright dismissive. What's the most blatant case of this? I think it's obvious to the people. There was a time in which Ares confronted Sentry when Sentry was not in a good mood, wasn't having a great day. And Sentry decided to turn him into fucking tissue paper, ripped him apart, folded him in front of everybody. There's literally a cutscene of everybody reacting to that shit. It looked like a fucking YouTube live, right? It was bad, right? All the superheroes saw this shit. Sentry has the potential and has shown he can do so and has done so to outright just toy with gods. And to do so certainly does speak to a potential higher meaning than just regular powers. I mean, after all, for years they said Hulk was just fucking strong, right? Well, it's a lot deeper than that. We figured that out. And I think it's reasonable to explore those potential options with the other characters in theory. Now, upon this event, right, that we just referred to with Ares getting executed, a lot of things going down. We saw Captain America confront Norman Osborn and say, look, straight up, you gotta give us the info on Sentry. Like, what the hell do we do? And he says, listen, Sentry, it's not something we can control. I never once controlled him. I sympathized with him. I just merely did my best to relate as well as anyone could to something like that. But in truth, he's beyond anything we can imagine or fathom. He's an angel of death. You know, at this point, Cap's pissed. Cap's like, look, you need to straight up, like, give me the truth. Like, your life's on the line right now. Like, how do we stop it? And Norman says, no, quite literally. Sentry's beyond what you think he is. He's the angel of death. And while Norman Osborn might not have the science quite down on what Sentry really is, my opinion, Angel of Death is a pretty good guess on his end. Not too shabby. Now, the Void, oftentimes, and as seen before, even through the omissions of Robert Reynolds himself, the Void is often labeled and regarded as the end of everything and beyond everything. And this is a piece of information that is not new. It's been around in both his old runs, his old appearances, and recent appearances. And to carry such a heavy weight in terms of, like, the power of the existence of the Void, the fact that it's beyond creation, it's the end of creation, all this, for that to just be thrown around consistently is something we can't ignore. And I'm sorry, it sounds like a lot more than just a superhero with a drug problem. I think it's a lot more sinister than that. Now, of course, famously in his initial run, there was an arc of discovery of what Sentry truly was, because everyone forgot. They were forced to forget. Now, a tape was discovered that bore some information on the Sentry situation. And in this tape, Reed Richards kept it pretty simple. He said, if we recall what Sentry is, what he really is, if we recall what the Void really is, then we're all cooked. we're done. This is something we can't contend with. This is something we can't fathom. And for Reed to say this, with all his exploration of the Marvel multiverse, all his encounters with cosmic beings and abstracts and super powerful entities, for him to say they simply can't imagine what this is, they're done. It's insane. But he was incredibly serious. And it makes you wonder, like, is the Void and Sentry, because obviously the two are synonymous, are they beyond what we even credit them for? Like, power scaling aside, narratively, are they way more than we imagined? You know, the case is being made. In the presence of Sentry, and this is kind of circling back to a character I mentioned prior, which was, of course, Hulk, and his recent additions with Immortal Hulk, and us finding out the connections Hulk has on a spiritual level with higher beings. In the presence of Sentry, Hulk was portrayed early on as almost like childlike and in awe of the Golden Man. The Void even one-tapped him at one point, literally just ragdolled him, destroyed his bones. Sentry's presence and aura calms Hulk in a way beyond what Reed Richards can test for and perceive. He just outright admits it. He's like, we don't quite know what level this helps him, but it does, and that's pretty crazy. And that was Sentry's passive aura, you know. Perhaps this healing, this helping from Sentry is on a spiritual level, perhaps similar to what we see with the One Below All. Now, another interesting encounter with Sentry that gives credence to the fact that he might have a higher, whether good or sinister is up to you, purpose and existence is Absorbing Man. Now, Absorbing Man is a character who has, with his skill set and power set, dabbled with quite a few powerhouses. This would include the likes of even the god himself, Odin. Now, why is this important? Well, when Absorbing Man had an encounter with Sentry, he absorbed just a tiny bit of his power and was overwhelmed. And he simply asked, is this what it's like to feel like God? And now, for him to have such extreme verbiage when it comes to Sentry as compared to other literal gods, sorry, something worth noting, and perhaps something that could potentially show itself later on in comics. Another interesting demonstration of perhaps Sentry's true being was Deathseed Sentry. You see, Deathseed was almost like an enhancement of actualization of self, as if Sentry transcended to who he really was. And in this form, some of the most interesting things with Deathseed was he would straight up speak in biblical quotes, biblical terms, refer to other gods as almost as if pseudo-gods in comparison to his real existence. And perhaps scariest, he mentions the white hot room. He says that the Void can casually leave the cycle of life, death, rebirth, creation, go do its own thing, and has easily traversed the lands akin to the white hot room. And for that statement to just be thrown around for how the Sentry exists, how the Void exists, the cycle they're in, the cycle they perpetrate, what they do, the biblical quotes as well, I'm sorry, it leans more to a higher existence than just some crazy superhero story. Are you guys agreeing with me so far? Let me know in the comments section, but let's continue into the case. Now, we see at one point that Doctor Strange runs an analysis early on with Sentry, right? Sentry has his concerns. There's concerns about the existence of Sentry now coming about, as the memory wipe, which we will speak on, has kind of obviously skewed the scouting reports for a lot of people. Now, Doctor Strange decides to bring him in and runs an evaluation. Upon this evaluation, he's very honest. He straight up says he has never seen a power nor threat like the Sentry and the Void. Considering how many of the abstracts and Hell Lords Doctor Strange has encountered throughout his time, even in the classic era, this is an insane statement for him to make. It speaks more to the importance and perhaps hierarchy of the existence of Sentry and Void. We then see, towards the end of his solo run, that more demonstrations of his power and existence were put on display. You see, there was this sense of the Void returning, this being beyond imagination that would destroy everything. Of course, the heroes, being the Chads they are, they can't go out like this. And they await the arrival to battle whatever's to come. This includes Thor, Spider-Man, Captain America, and others. Spider-Man senses something bigger, or at least similar to Galactus. We then see the heroes themselves admit straight up, this is the greatest threat Earth 616 has ever faced, their reality's ever faced. Given the time period of around 2000, just that era in general, considering all the threats from Galactus, the Hell Lords, the Celestials, that the Earth in reality has faced, this is an incredible statement and an indictment of the power and existence of Sentry and Void. Now, let's speak back to and review more the hacks and methodology used to suppress Sentry. Now, in terms of how extreme they got in suppressing the existence of Sentry, they went as far as entire comics being forgotten about and having to be remembered. Straight up, this retcon, this extension of the erasure of the existence of Sentry, is said to be extended to real life. It was a real life thing. As if Sentry was a real being that existed and had to be covered up by Marvel Comics. We would go on to get a further examination of this suppression. Now, the writers straight up explain that the existence of Sentry was just too much for the rest of reality, for the rest of the Marvel multiverse. As a result, his existence could not be known. Entire comics were put away. His original creators, Stan Lee and others, they hid the existence of the Golden Man because his existence was too much of a danger to the memory of the Marvel multiverse. Sentry's writers go on to explain that all the writers agreed to this in order to protect the Marvel multiverse. But what are they protecting it from? Is it just as simple as Sentry being the Golden Man, the golden superhero, who perhaps can become too addicted to his own power, creating the dark persona known as Void? Is this what's too much, or is it deeper than that? Are they perhaps protecting Marvel from the most dangerous Hell Lord we've ever seen? The extremes of the existence of someone like the Void can't be underestimated. We've even seen characters who have seen all the entities you could imagine, from Eternity to Hell Lords like Dormammu, to Zom, to the Vigilanti. All these things, Yggdrasil itself, absorbed, empowered, infused, used, and granting knowledge to the users, right? These characters, like Strange and Loki, they bow in the presence of the Void. You see, the reason this is crazy, you gotta consider what Yggdrasil has come to mean, especially in modern Marvel. Yggdrasil has been shown to quite literally contain existences and realms that are like, for example, Thanos, Living Tribunal. We see beings there playing cosmic chess within the tree. This is nothing to the Void. These beings of great magic and power are nothing to the Void. And when Sentry comes back to fight the Void, Loki asks, Strange, did you summon Sentry? Did you bring him back to life? And he said no. You see, when Death Seed Sentry happened, when Void happened, when all these things happened, Sentry and Void never died. Strange found Sentry floating among the stars, trying to figure out how to die. But he can't. And when he consulted Strange and said, can you help me die? My existence is too much. Kill me. Strange looked at him sadly and said, but how? And the fact that there's no conceivable way to get rid of Sentry and Void, it's quite an interesting level of existence there. And finally, just to kind of conclude this case before I wrap it up with my thoughts on the conclusion, we've seen openly that there's a Hell Lord out there to exist. The throne sits empty for the true Satan, a true Hell Lord being. Even Yggdrasil empowered characters can't handle the Void. These Hell Lords play with the existence of Yggdrasil, and a lot of them, quite honestly, don't scale above. Doctor Strange knows of no ways to kill Sentry or Void. It's just beyond. And this seat awaits a Hell Lord to truly take it that is worthy of such power of the seat. So, with all that out the way, what's my conclusion on this wild theory of Sentry? For me, Sentry or the Void may end up being one of the biggest Hell Lords in Marvel, or even perhaps Toba, or an avatar of the one below all. The devil hints, end of creation, retcons to protect the Marvel's multiverse, the biblical talk, Sentry, the angel of death, and much more. It all hints at perhaps the Sentry being way darker than we imagined. Perhaps the greatest devil or Hell Lord to walk among us. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Do you agree? Is this how Sentry will come to be eventually? Is this what him and the Void, who are synonymous, is that what they'll end up being portrayed as? Let me know in the comment section down below if you agree. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy Jobbers and Goons. This was a wild theory on Sentry that I decided to drop for you guys. More content coming today. Tomorrow, an Ask the Goon video will be up, as well as probably one more. Perhaps a stream tonight. I'm pretty sure Naruto video will drop tonight as well. I got a lot coming for you guys. It's been your boy Jobbers and Goons. Like, subscribe, and stay active on the notifications. And I'll see y'all later. Peace.